Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Joining Me Today podcast, presented by me, Bailey Lewis Smith, a guy whose favorite brand is Royal Blood, which means that I've been having a fantastic last 2 weeks. If you know, you know. But anyway, I can't talk about it now. It's too emotional for me at the moment. But anyway, once again, I've got another fantastic episode with another fantastic guest. And I just cannot wait to jump in. Episode 11. It's just amazing and stuff. Like I've said in previous episodes, how far this podcast has come. I'm absolutely in jubilation. But as I like to do with every single episode, I like to provide a song recommendation. And in today's episode and stuff, my song recommendation is going to be, once again and stuff, a song from a vinyl that I do own. Let's quickly grab it over here. Oh, God, please don't. Oh. Okay. I was really scared they were going to fall off the shelf, and I was so scared. So this one is going to be from Paramore's Afterlaughter album. I recommended Paramore before. They got my number 2 and stuff on my Song of the Year list last year and stuff. This is their second to last album. Fantastic album. A fantastic kind of, I want to say pop rock, but it's more kind of bit synth poppy, kind of implementing all different sort of elements, elements of 90s sort of music and kind of all stuff like that, fantastic vocals and all that. And one of the songs I want to recommend is Caught in the Middle, that one just there, which you probably can't see, but hey-oh, and stuff. Fantastic, fantastic song. A song I didn't initially like, but over time I really come to sort of, like, I became quite fond of it. I really sort of connected with it, and it's got the kind of synth pop kind of vibe, fantastic build-up, fantastic chorus, brilliant vocals by the lead vocalist, and a fantastic song. You guys should definitely go check it out. But now it's time for the main event, the interview portion of the podcast. Today on the podcast, I'm going to be joined by podcaster, comedian, a man, a myth, a legend himself, a guy who should have got a knighthood at the last honours list, and I'm still so sad he didn't. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Eli Silverman. How are you doing?
Hello. Hi, great to be here.
You're on the greatest podcast. You don't have to deal with Paul at the moment, so I bet you're in so many happy like things at the moment.
Yeah, I like Paul usually. No, I love the guy. So Royal Blood, are they the ones that were rude to the audience?
Yeah, and they're my favourite band, so fantastic week for me at the moment. Yeah, like they've had like the thing is they are quite well known, but I did think it was weird to book them in between a former One Direction member and Lewis Capaldi. Like they're such like inserting them in there was a weird decision, but to me you don't have a go at a crowd. You know what I mean? You've got to remain professional. Like if people were booing me, I wouldn't just go, "Oh, sod you that," and walk off. Like, you've got to remain professional. So
yeah,
crazy situation.
Maybe it was just an inexperienced thing, and sort of, I mean, modern crowds are can be really, really sort of apathetic, and I think that makes you more angry than people sort of actively booing you, It's the sort of distracted, just not giving at all sort of thing. When I'm a DJ in between bands that do live music, and there's this sort of apathy, I think, in modern crowds, which can really, really irk performers. So what, they're going to be demoted from being your favorite band now, or?
Well, here's the thing. I have been thinking about it because for me, it's weird because I can't sort of be like, "Oh, it's my favorite band. Go check them out." The first thing they're going to find is that video because then it kind of reflects bad on me. So I have been thinking about switching and stuff. I've got one in mind and stuff like that and stuff. But I'm like, I don't know at the moment. So I'll have to get back to you guys on that one and stuff. But
okay.
Yeah, talking of music, I don't just like to do my own song recommendation. There we go. I also like to know my guest song recommendation. So if you was to give a song recommendation out to the listeners, what one would you give?
Well, I think You Got What You Wanted by Tina Turner.
Oh, yeah. And especially because of what happened recently and stuff like that, that means a lot more and stuff like that. Very sad to hear the death about Tina Turner and stuff like that. One of the best artists, really, and stuff like that. Of all time, like I think that's undeniable and stuff. But
yeah, that's one that's been sort of gaining popularity in recent years because it's quite a sort of new direction for them, for both Ike and Tina Turner at the time. Sort of swamp rocky, but it shows her full sort of dynamic range, going from the sweet voice she had as well as the sort of like blood curdling almost, screaming. But yeah, so that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic recommendation. You guys should definitely go check it out. But anyway, now we've got past the song recommendation into the main portion of the interview and stuff. And the main thing I like to ask with a lot of these interviews and stuff, you're obviously in the media and entertainment field. You've got your Cheapshow podcast with Mr. Paul Gannon and stuff like that. And stuff. All
Yes.
Jokes aside, fantastic guy, brilliant guy and stuff. If you haven't checked out the Cheapshow podcast, definitely go check it out. They're doing fantastic stuff over there. And you've done other stuff, obviously, kind of in entertainment and all that. But how did you get into all this field in the first place?
Well, I was always wanted to be an actor. Did drama at university and failed to get into drama school. Started doing stand-up comedy quite late, really, after at least two of my friends had given it a go. That's how I met Paul. Got quite disillusioned with stand-up, like really bad. Like really found it difficult to motivate myself to even book gigs, or So that was always my issue. I didn't have the professionalism to pursue it. Although the actual performance aspect of stand-up, it's extremely rewarding. When you get a crowd to laugh or applaud at something you've fine-tuned, a line that you fine-tuned. That's a really extremely rewarding sort of performance feeling. But it's like it was a sort of toxicity, a bigotry that I didn't like in the audiences even back then. And this is like 15 years ago I was doing it, I think, almost now. But anyway, so that's how I met Paul. And then we started podcasting basically, and it's so much more intimate and controlled, and we're just basically doing a lot better than we ever would as live stand-ups. We did a bit of sketch stuff in Edinburgh as well, but it just it's our own thing, and you have that control, and the audience is much bigger than when we were doing stand-up, definitely.
Oh yeah, like I definitely feel like with stand-up and stuff like that, it's kind of like you kind of are like the jester on the day and stuff like that. You're the jester on stage being like, come on, like make us laugh. But with a podcast, exactly. If a bit isn't funny, it's just, well, that's just a part of normal conversation. Sometimes jokes don't land, that's just natural.
Yes. So in a way, yes, it's easier and you don't have that immediate feedback. But, the reality of stand-up, like getting gigs, going to gigs, the gig might be like with a terrible audience who are pissed as all of that aspect of the live thing. I couldn't, it got to me.
I know it's something I couldn't do, admittedly, and stuff. I'd find it very nerve-wracking and stuff like that. Especially if you feel like you're struggling to win the crowd over. You feel like it's like a bigger mountain to climb to then win and sometimes you're just not gonna, you know what I mean? Like you said, if they're drunk, whatever, and stuff like that, they probably don't really care. You know what I mean? It's hard, so I do get that. And the thing I find interesting is that you guys started podcasting, I feel like, before the big podcast boom we've seen recently. Obviously, podcasts like the Joe Rogan podcast and stuff like that's become so massive. Like, what would your opinion be on where podcasts have gone since you guys have started?
Podcasts, it's although they keep saying about they're booming and they keep, it's sort of a new cycle with it. Just read an article in The Guardian about how podcasts are like, taking over the world again. We've found that the industry, sort of established industry, can't actually deal with it. And so people have this this idea that it always has to be linked to another part of the industry. So it always has to have like a celebrity of some sort, or, and all of these podcasts that have a sort of unique selling point as well. That's what they tell you need. So I think it's great that they're big and they're popular, but I think smaller, independent podcasts show the actual breadth of what can be done. You know, I think it's in a healthy state. You know,
Oh yeah,
podcasts are great.
oh yeah, and stuff. They're not gonna all the independent podcasts aren't gonna be all great as mine, and obviously Mr. Eli Silverman's here. But obviously support your local creators and all that. But yeah,
Absolutely.
like you said though, I think an interesting point you brought up was about the celebrity aspect. And I do feel like when people are saying podcasts are booming, I do feel like so many podcasts rely on the fact they got a famous face. And if you see a lot of the top podcasts now, they are just it's because the famous face is there and their names plastered all over. And I'm like, are people listening because they like what they're listening to, or is it because there's somebody they watched on telly 6 years ago on a TV show they liked? It's that kind of whole clash.
And that is fine if then the podcast in itself has some value, but it's sort of like it's functioning as a sort of, like you say, a sort of auxiliary thing to their main thing, and that's how it's getting an audience. But a lot of the time with these podcasts, they've got a very short run. They run out of steam, and sometimes the sound is dreadful. The actual technical aspects of it are dreadful. And I think, we've got quite a lot of pride. Basically, Paul is really, thinks a lot about the sound of Cheap Show, the sound design, the sound edit. He does a lot of work on that. And I think that's why we've had, the degree of success we've had. People don't, it's a sound format, and it's really irritating. And I think a lot of production companies, they just don't understand it. Or during the pandemic, there's a lot of people doing a Zoom sort of podcast, and the sound is awful. And they even put these clips in ads. Like there's an ad of Minnie Driver doing her podcast, and it's like an ad that's on Spotify put in front of other podcasts, and it sounds like she's in a tin can or something. It's just like there's a sort of low standard on that, and I think a lot of success is to do with sort of treating it, with a bit more sort of seriousness, the sound aspect. I think Paul does that so well because he comes from a sort of radio background. So I've been lucky to be able to work with someone who actually understood some other aspects of the medium,
I do feel like they do kind of, yeah, you are right. I feel like instead of treating it like radio, a proper audio production, they treat it as like that's a thing that the person that we're representing, because obviously the agency's production get involved. They could be like, oh, that's just something that our person and stuff they can do on a Sunday, and it's a quick thing, and they can talk about some old times with mates, and whatever, we'll just whip it together. It's on Zoom, 30 minutes, easy, done.
Yeah.
So much of it is like that too, right?
And it's also it's sort of symptomatic of the sort of wider sort of amateurization of the media through the technology, which is also to do with the bottom line and people wanting to save money, and now with AI you're going to definitely have AI writing people's podcasts, aren't you? I mean, I'm sure it's already happened.
Oh my god. Would you guys ever do a AI version of the Cheap Show podcast?
We'd probably do a fake one to try and be funny, or have some kind of AI character. Definitely could see that happening. And people have already posted on Twitter, I think they've got them to do like a Cheap Show script, like an AI Cheap Show script, which is obviously nonsense. But we are nonsense. It's hard. We're quite close to just a random bunch of words anyway. So I mean,
the
association.
The people love it though, you know what I mean? The people love it, and that's what's most important, isn't it?
Some people do. Well, we had our song contest. Was that what you were going to go on to? But because you give the song recommendation.
Oh, you guys had that Eurovision happen recently, didn't you?
Eurovision was the other night on Friday. Live streamed on YouTube for the first time. We've gone from Twitch to YouTube. It went well. There was drama.
I know this is a bit more of a family-friendly podcast, but is there any songs and stuff that you liked from it you want to say about?
The hot sauce rap was the winner. I think it doesn't have any swearing in. But it's about a guy who loves hot sauce. Clear winner. Also, what my favourite, a lot of people's favourite, was last year's winner, Lee Spence, that did a song called The Mayor Requests. Also, 100% family friendly and clean. It's just people saying it's a bit like early Pink Floyd. Definitely worth checking out that one as well.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna have we'll have a by the end of the week there'll be an album of all of this week's entries on a Bandcamp. So
you guys have got to
check that out.
You got to put it on vinyl as well. You know what I mean? You got to get in with the vinyl collectors. You got to do 100 copies, and they've got to be £1,000 each.
This was the plan this year. I don't know how Paul thinks about it now, but we were going to do an LP this year.
Oh wow!
That was the plan. He said we would, but I think it's probably getting pushed back. But it's definitely going to happen at some point. If we stay alive. Then the idea we'd have with that, because we sort of linked to sort of charity shop stuff, would be we'd print, I don't know, maybe 200 copies of the LP, sell a couple or give some away as prizes. But then this is a really good idea that Paul had, is to go around and sort of put some copies in various charity shops in different parts of the country.
And yeah, you could just walk in and stuff like that to your little charity shop in like Bury St Edmunds or Kings Lynn or random place, and you could see Urine Vision on the wall and be like,
that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Come on, that'd be amazing.
Oh, that would be great. That would be amazing.
Yeah. But maybe next year.
Yeah, and it would have the resale value would just go up and up, and you'll become one of the rarest vinyls out there.
That's not what we're about. That's not why I collect vinyl. Although I'm lucky that my flatmate has a Discogs shop, basically, so I do get to get rid of some of mine,
But yeah, to be honest though, even like all jokes aside, whatever, it does kind of annoy me the fact that like for instance, I collect vinyls and I'm not really too fussed about the value. I just like getting the bands I like, but it annoys me where it'll be like, oh, but people like will buy loads of them just because they're rare and all that. And I'm like, what about the people that actually just want it? You know what I mean? That ruins the fun for them, doesn't it? And it's really sad.
Absolutely. No, I collect for the items. I mean, there's certain things I have that are worthless that I love, sort of obscure 7-inch instrumental stuff, And that is the funny thing with the price of vinyl, is that some things can be incredibly rare and still be worthless. It's who's interested, on the market. So it's a personal collecting obsession that I have. It's not to do with making money, because I surely haven't,
But yeah, I can relate to that. I can relate wholeheartedly. But anyway, and stuff, obviously you spoke about Cheapshow Podcast and stuff. Podcast gone fantastically and stuff like that. Like I said, you guys should definitely go check it out. But another thing and stuff that you were most famous for, unfortunately, come to an end a few years ago, and stuff, but a lot of people know you from that, is Barshens and stuff.
Yeah.
Those people loved you on that and stuff. How did you and Paul come involved in all that?
I think Paul was in contact with Stuart Ashens, of Ashens fame, and yeah, he somehow he said he was starting because his collaborative videos with Barry were going so brilliantly. They had this idea, and that was back in the days when YouTube had a creator space, and if you had 100,000 subscribers, they'd just let you have free studio time there. So that was sort of like the motivating utility thing that was going on. So, and then we did it there, and it just it got reasonably big by the end. But then fell apart because of the logistics. Both Barry and Stuart live outside London, quite far away, and they had to. It was just too much for them.
Yeah.
In the
but
end.
People love the show and stuff. I feel like it's become quite a cult classic even afterwards and stuff. Like, you'll quickly go on one of the old videos and you'll see so many people who've watched it in the last year and they'll be like, oh, I loved when, Ashen said this or Barry said this. And yeah, it's amazing. Like, how do you feel about, because obviously you and Paul became quite loved by the fans and all that, especially yourself. Like, how did you react to all these people loving what you guys were doing?
We were well into it. It was great. I mean, like, it made Cheapshow a thing, Barshens, basically. That's when we got an actual sort of sizable audience for the podcast. So we're really grateful to have done it, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is talk. There is talk about a possible reunion, but we'll see.
Oh my God, my heart. That got me because I loved Barshens. So to me, you better not be lying to me, Mr. Eli Silverman.
Well, it's not. Listen, it's not been. We're not on the pen yet.
Yeah.
We're on a very light pencil, and no, there's no dates. So
Yeah.
I'm not lying.
What would you say, speaking of Barshens and all that, what would you say is like your personal favorite memory of doing the show?
Oh, I loved the mobility scooter challenge because I went to university in Norwich, and it was literally the first time I'd been back there in over 20 years. So that was special, and I like empty malls as well. Nighttime sort of vibe. I think that was a standout for me. I really loved the first King of Plasticine video where I had the megaphone. They wouldn't let me have it after that, but there's something funny about close quarter megaphone use,
Oh, it was brilliant, especially that mobility scooter video. I love, especially when like what was it? You was trying to go up the ramp or something, and then like the marble kept falling off. And stuff. That was hilarious. And it was Stuart that won that competition, wasn't it? It was like the Toblerone Cup or something like that.
Yeah, he got it. It was his years of racing games and stuff, experience with video games, I think.
Oh yeah, and it was a fantastic video, and Barshens was fantastic and stuff like that. And if it ever comes back, that would be amazing. But another question I like to ask, this one's actually and stuff like that, is actually going to be from like my cousin and stuff like that, as well as me, were massive fans of Barshens and stuff like that. He was actually the guy that introduced me and stuff like that to the whole Barshens and what was going on and stuff like that. And he absolutely adores and stuff like that yourself, and he adores Paul and all the rest of the guys that were there. And he's got one question and stuff like that he would love me to ask, and I've got to ask it.
Okay.
Do you remember the episode where Ashens gave you a subscription box?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you remember and stuff when you was given a framed picture of Tosh from the bill?
Yes. I'd lost that immediately though.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask.
Sorry.
What ended up happening into the picture?
I don't know. They're props. Someone dealt with the props. I was doing a lot of videos. I'm sorry, I don't know what to say to you.
Oh, we've lost a legendary piece of Barshens memorabilia.
Oh no!
It's going to show up on eBay. Gonna go for £20,000.
Do you remember there was a video I did with my own box of crap or whatever?
Yeah.
I've got all of that stuff still. I think.
Oh, but I feel sad to know that you've got to try and get another picture of him. You got to get in a nice frame, a bigger frame this time, and it's got to be put and stuff like that on your wall or something. It's got to be.
I don't object to a framed picture of Tosh from the bill. I'm just, it was several years ago now. Got so much crap in here. Anyway. So,
yeah. But yeah, unfortunately that's gone, but you never know. It might show up one day. You never know. You might just randomly find it and stuff. You never know.
Maybe Barry took it home or something like that, or Stuart.
Just put it right next to his bed.
Well, Stuart, it was his box for me, wasn't it? So maybe he just put it back in the box. He hoards all sorts of tat, as we know.
But yeah, going because I'm going a bit backwards and stuff, talking about music and all that. I know that you're quite a music guy and stuff like that. What's your sort of relationship like with music?
I've always loved music. I wanted to be a singer. I learned harmonica like a rock singer. It was my first sort of thing was like hard rock and metal when I was in my mid to late teens. Then I got into vinyl. My best friend growing up was the son of a sort of famous guitarist, prog guitarist. So I was kind of exposed through hanging out with him to music industry sort of people for years. And then I just got into the DJing thing. Never really had the discipline again to learn an instrument. It's another regret I've got. It's sort of like podcasting is the easiest sort of way I can get to perform all the time.
It's like a lot of things really, innit? And stuff like that. Like, like it's not even like the fact that things take a lot of work. Sometimes it's like you don't want to put so much work into something if you feel like it's then not going to hit off, or you don't want to get too far into a project and it falls apart, or just sort of going out there performing. There's a lot of like things that can be quite like, like creative things that could be a bit stressful and stuff like that. So I definitely relate to that, because music's something I would love to do and stuff like that one day, but it is just sort of, it's just so many factors that can sort of hold you back. So I definitely get what you mean when you say that.
Yeah, but music obviously is a big part of, with the vinyl now, is part of what I do for a living. So
Oh yeah, and stuff.
Like
yeah, and with our vinyls are getting so popular and all that, you know what I mean? Like, it's amazing to see really how it's kind of, like you said, sort of like cyclical, and it's like kind of how it's come full circle, and vinyls are now on top again, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a tiny fraction of what people will listen to. But yes, it's a great format, especially for sort of like a club or like a performance space. I think that's when people talk about, vinyl sounding better. I think that's really there's a more narrow area where it does actually sound better, and I think that's when you amplify it. Like something about sort of a booming sort of PA with vinyl has a sort of magic in terms of the loudness. I think CDs basically sound better than vinyls.
Oh yeah. And they got more durability as well, which a lot of people don't think about. Like, they're going to last longer than a lot of vinyls over multiple plays.
You think? Well, this I think is a myth, because I saw a video with a guy who he got some cheap sort of easy listening compilation they didn't care about, and he had a stylus and he put one coin on, another coin on, and he was like loading it, really overloading the force, and it basically didn't do any discernible damage to the vinyl. So I think they do, obviously some vinyls do get played out, and especially if it's a styrene copy. Styrene copy will wear out and get terrible. But this guy was a normal vinyl, and he had like a huge amount of coins pressing down on this. Nothing happened. It only started to damage the surface of the record when the sort of edges of the cartridge started to, press. So the modern styluses don't damage vinyl. The other thing I heard is that CDs rot.
Yeah.
You heard about this?
Oh yeah,
that will never happen to vinyl.
Yeah, that's a big thing in gaming at the moment. There's a big fear about it and stuff because of discs. So a lot of people are saying and stuff like, yeah, you're collecting all these old games, but some of them are already like 30 years old now. So they will start to rot and stuff like that very soon, probably.
Yeah. Vinyl's forever, man. As long as you keep it out of the sun,
Yeah, and they're just amazing to collect when you get the big sort of, vinyls. It's got the nice sort of artwork on it. It is amazing to collect them. So
yeah, I love it. I'm such a serious vinyl addict. It's almost like a gambling addiction for me, because I'll go to a record shop and you take risks. I won't stand there and look it up on YouTube on my phone to see what it's like. I want that thrill of getting something I don't know what it is, getting back, So it's very much like an addictive. I'm into vinyl real bad.
So I can relate and stuff.
I can justify spending some money because of what I do, the DJ basically.
Yeah. For me though and stuff like that, I've really started collecting in the past year or so and stuff like I've already built up quite a collection, and I'm like, man, I'm spending a bit too much money here, but I love it. I genuinely do.
As long as you enjoy it, you're not spending, the rent or whatever.
No, I promise there's no issues on here. I haven't got like loads of like Wonga loans or something. I'm all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately and stuff like that, this has been a fantastic podcast, a fantastic interview with yourself. But unfortunately, and stuff like that, we've now come to the last question and stuff like
Okay.
that. To me, I would say definitely one of the most important questions that I like to ask and stuff. If you was to give like, a piece of advice to someone like myself, for instance, what would be like the best piece of advice you could give to somebody? What's like the most important piece of advice you'd say?
Don't delay. Go for it now.
Don't procrastinate. Just go
Yeah.
for it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff you want.
Oh yeah, short and sweet. I love it and stuff. For somebody like me, I like that.
Sorry, I'm not big on advice, but
No, but that's you though. But I like that. That's you though, because that's how you would approach the question. You know what I mean? I'd rather you be honest than you be fake about it. So I actually appreciate you just being honest with your answer. So I appreciate that a lot.
no worries.
But anyway, yeah, this has been an absolutely fantastic episode. I've had a fantastic guest and stuff like that. Mr. Eli Silverman, Sir Mr. Eli Silverman, as he should be referred to.
Well, maybe if we bring back Barshens and it wins a few Oscars, like they'll knight me. Charlie, King Charlie will knight me. No, thanks, Daly. Nice to meet you.
Oh yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. Anything before we end off? Anything you want to shout out and stuff? Anything you want to promote out there to the listeners?
Well, I do have a music radio show on Soho Radio every 2 weeks called the House of Pickles Sound Show. So if you go to Soho Radio, you'll find the show there.
And yeah, you guys should definitely check it out. Do you know if that's UK only or is that international or?
No, it's a big internet station worldwide. They've got one studio in New York and one in London. So there's two stations. There's also a music station and culture. So I'm on the music station on Soho Radio, House of Pickle Sound Show.
Oh yeah, you guys should definitely go check that out. You can check it out from anywhere and stuff like that. And yeah, it's Mr. Eli Silverman. He's going to have some great music on there and stuff. So definitely go check it out. But anyway, yeah, that has come to the end and stuff of another fantastic episode. I'd like to thank my guest once again for coming on. And that's the end of the episode. Another end, sad, but episode 11 done and finished. But anyway,
bye,
guys, enjoyed this episode. See you guys next time. Peace out.